Hello everybody, this is Javi from the Visible Touch, and as many people requested, here is my English version of the video that I did last week. The idea behind this video is to show an alternative to frequency separation. It seems to be that most people at the moment seem to be using this technique to clean up skin, even up skin, and in my opinion, because they don't have the control of the technique yet, they end up destroying the image or overdoing it. I think with this approach, you can do similar things, but it's less damaging to the image, in my opinion. And I like working this way. To be honest, rarely I use frequency separation, only in a specific situation, specific beauties, or sometimes in clothing, but rarely I use it, and never ever in fashion, never. Which, if you pay attention, if you see online or any retouching groups for a fashion image, even for a portrait, everybody seems to be using this when it's zero need for frequency separation. But anyway, this is actually not a beauty image. It was shot like half body, but the photographer and myself decided to crop this. By the way, thank you to Felix Lemon for allowing us to play with this image. Really nice. But anyway, as I was saying, this is not 100% beauty, but by cropping it, it's giving us a really nice texture, really nice face with really nice makeup and great texture. So I thought it was a very good example to work on. First thing we're going to do here is we're going to do a raw conversion. I tend to use more when I'm working with my clients Capture One. The reason is I find it more versatile, and I think the management of color is much better than Camera Raw. But I know there is a lot of people at the moment using Camera Raw, so I'm going to work on this, and probably what I'll do in the future, near future hopefully, is another video of how to process an image, for example, like this, with Capture One. So to access Camera Raw, what we do is we created a new layer, and then we're going to go to Shift Command A, and this is going to take us directly to Camera Raw. So here we are. I don't like working on really close to the image. I like always step back and have a proper look at the image so we can see the areas to work on. The first thing that strikes to me here is the image has a lot of contrast. So what I'm going to try to do is all those darker areas, the eyes, they seem to be very dark, eyebrows, the hair, mouth, everything seems to have too much contrast and a lot of blacks and shadows. So I'm going to try to bring that back. The idea really with any raw conversion is to maximize your image, to bring the best out of the image. This is your chance. When you got a raw file, this is your chance to bring the best out of it. Once you're in Photoshop, it doesn't allow you to bring the best because information has changed already. So now is your time to bring the best out of the image. Sometimes people, I think they're confused, and we think that to maximize texture, we need to apply contrast, and it tends to be more the opposite, really. It's like by lowering the contrast, we get more detail. The darker the highlights, the more detail it has. And I think people understand it the other way. So let me show you. The first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to lower the contrast because I think it's too high. So we're going to go not too low, but just a bit there. Okay. And then the other thing we could still see here is the darker areas. They're here, they're too dark. So we're going to bring a bit of light into that. So we're going to add a bit of light in the shadows. There. Okay. You need to remember as well, you can always, if you want to apply to your image a very contrasty image, bring the best out of the image now, and then you can always apply contrast later in Photoshop. It doesn't have to be everything done here in your raw conversion. You don't have to have the final image here. You can always add colors, change hues, change contrast, definition of certain areas. It doesn't have to be all from start. Here, what you have to try to do, understand is you have to prepare the image with the best outcome possible, really. We're recovering basically all the detail that we can, really. So we worked on the shadows. Now we're going to put a bit of light as well on the blacks, because because we want to bring a bit of light on those areas. Okay, and we're going to do exactly the same here in the curves, because I'm still not satisfied with these areas here. That's still too dark in here, so I'd rather have a slightly lighter image now and work on the rest later. That's too much. Somewhere there. And then the shadow is exactly the same. Somewhere there. Okay. And this is looking good to me, so we're going to press OK. And I can show you here the before and after with your raw conversion. What we see here basically is we got rid of that contrast on the skin. We've not lost any detail. We probably gained some detail here in the shadows, and we can maximize that later. And I will add contrast later, but not just now, because what I want to do is have a nice clear canvas where I can work. There we go. So we're going to name this camera raw conversion, which is, to me, is always CRC. Okay. And from there, we're going to start cleaning up the skin. As I was saying earlier, rather than work on frequency separation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear a new blank layer. I'm going to name it cleaning. Okay, and here, if you press J, or if you go here and you go to the healing brush, all layers set and set to normal mode. What we're going to do is we're going to clean up the areas that strike to us, like what is very obvious, where it catches your eye. Obviously, when we work on cleaning, the last thing you want is to have a big brush like this and do this. Why? Because you remove that, but you remove nearby texture that wasn't supposed to go. It was fine. So you need to preserve as much as you can. So this is not working to me. So I think what we need to do is really small brush, and then from here you sample and you take things out, whatever catches your eye, but don't work in a really big brush. Okay. Just for everybody to know, I don't change any settings here, only the size. The hardness always 100% and the spacing 25. This is a standard. I don't change that. And then from here, I try not to do dots because that's not removing much. So I always try to do strokes. There we go. So fine texture, always cloning from different areas. Every time you remove something, clone again and clone again. And don't worry if some kind of darkness or blotchiness starts appearing, because we're going to fix that later on with dodge and burn. So that's not a big deal. Okay, so I'm only removing what is catching my eyes, basically. Sampling always from nearby areas. So obviously I can be talking forever, so what we're going to do is I'm going to try to clean up this very quickly so we can focus on other things. I'm not pretending with this video to work on the full image, because otherwise the video will be so long. So what we're going to do is we're going to work on clean up the skin on an empty layer, and I'll set up the dodge and burn layers, but we'll leave that for another time, the dodge and burning. I will explain how I'm setting up, but we won't do dodge and burning as yet, because that will require a really long video and I don't want to bore you with my chat. So if you give me 2 minutes, I'm going to work on those textures very quickly. Only removing what is needed. Some people has asked me, is like, how do I came to retouching? How do I start retouching? My situation was by chance, really. I used to live in UK, in Edinburgh, and now based in Spain, but I spent my last 10 years in Scotland. That's what probably you can pick up the accent from Scotland. I was working in a hairdresser's for 6 years, and they were doing a lot of photo shoots. Boss was actually a photographer, so he was obviously, I was always very welcome to go to the photo shoots, and I never felt in my life that I was a creative person or anything like that, or I wasn't even I didn't have an inclination to do anything creative because I didn't feel creative. But by going to these photo shoots, very quickly I was hooked to this new world of fashion and hair. But it was one day that I remember my boss working on with Photoshop. It was the first time that actually Photoshop and I we met, and he was doing very basic things. Basically, it was like lighting the images, using curves, and that's really it. He wasn't even aware that dodge and burn was existing. So that's the only thing he was doing. So I started kind of paying attention to what he was doing, and then one day he said, you want to try? And then I started playing, and then I liked it, and then I played in my house, and then from there it became a really good hobby. And after a while, it took me like good 4 years to get good understanding of how the skin worked and how to do dodge and burning. It's like, so I'm always saying the same: don't try to run with Photoshop. If you're learning, take your time. It took me 4 years till I got my first paid job. So be very patient, and you need to learn your techniques, and you need to have your own style and define your style, because never try to copy somebody else's style. You need to be individual in that aspect, because otherwise you will never be true to yourself. You will be like trying to replicate somebody else's job. It's like, no. Understand how Photoshop works, how color works, how skin works, and from there, if you're patient enough, it will start paying off. But that's the main thing I'm saying to everybody: patience is the key. Dodge and burn takes time to understand how it works and to perfection this technique. But if you're good at it, it is incredible, the results. So always slowly but surely, as they say in Scotland. Well, as you can see, almost done here. I'm just removing what is really obvious. Okay, I can see that, I don't know if you guys see there's a hair or something there. So I'm going to try to clone that out. Or at least make it not as obvious. There we go. There's one more there. Detail is the key, but don't get obsessed with details. So if detail is good, you have to remove it, but you have to understand what is needing to go and what is not needing to go. Right, the eye is the same way. I'm not removing every single thing, only the obvious. Okay. Always sampling, always. Here I'm going to remove it with a clone stamp tool. I'm about 50%. Okay, there we go. And those hairs here as well. And this, we're going to change to the spot healing brush set to content aware. And what this is going to do is going to sample from the nearby areas, and it's going to try to replicate what was there, which I think is worked really well. There we go. And the same here, this hair is crossing here, we're going to do exactly the same. The spot healing brush set to content aware, and hopefully that's going to give us a nice result, which is good enough. Go. Far away, those tiny veins here. So far I've only used this empty layer, the healing brush, the clone stamp tool, and the spot healing brush, nothing else. And as you can see, the skin is looking much better already. I'm only taking away imperfections and things that catches my eyes, nothing too deep. Those hairs here, right? So let's go. There we go. Don't get obsessed with details, because you can always get rid of them later with dodge and burn. Okay, there's that line here. There we go. What I'm going to do before we move on is, I can see the teeth, it's a bit wonky there, so we're going to fix that very quickly. And the way I'm going to fix it is, oops, there we go. With the clone stamp tool, again, about 50%, I'm going to clone from here until we meet the other side. There we go. And I know there is a bit of a spill here, but the only thing you need to do is just delete that. There we go. And this is going to go as well. Smart. Right. Healing brush again, sampling the nearby areas, very careful, and just remove it. Tiny details. Okay. Those hairs I'm going to leave them because they don't bother me. Unless the client says otherwise. This situation there's no client, so we decide. I'm not going to remove them because they don't bother me much. But this one's here on the nose, yes, they do look a bit obvious. So what we're going to do, same again, the clone stamp tool, and very, very slowly get rid of them. Always be very careful not to make patterns like we've created there. So we need to remove that. You always need to pay attention on those aspects, because although at the beginning it might look okay to you, it's very obvious when you repeat patterns, and it's not a nice look. So obviously we've done some spilling here, so delete that very carefully. There we go. Okay. And then the patterns need to go. Okay, I need to sample from other areas just to break those patterns so nobody knows that you've been touching those things. Minimize the possibilities of people knowing that you've touched that. Okay, this area as well, you can see it now. Okay, and same again, I'm going to delete this, all the spilling that we had here, so this look nice. But as you can see, I'm not removing everything at 100%. Everything is still a bit of tiny hairs, a bit of detail, because otherwise you end up with no texture if you become obsessed. Okay, let's have a final look here. This needs to be fixed. See this dark, this light area here in the eye, that needs to go. The lashes, they look a bit dry there. So I'm just following the patterns. There we go, that looks better. So really that's me with the cleaning. It's like there's nothing much to it. This is the only thing we need to do. I'll show you the before and after. You see it's tiny details, and that's your cleaning up. Okay, there is some areas, for example, there that we've changed a wee bit the light, but don't worry because we will get that repaired with Dodge and Burn. Okay, but always careful. You can see one thing here, which I'll do very quickly. There we go. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do Dodge and Burn. There is 3 ways of doing Dodge and Burn, as far as I'm aware. But only use normally curves. To set up your curves for Dodge and Burn, basically you need 2 curves. So 1 and 2. First one is called Dodge, which is adding light. And the other one is called Burn, which is adding shadows. So the Burn, we're going to darken it, and the Dodge, we're going to light it. Okay, we're going to invert both masks, and we're going to put them in a group. Okay, and this is called Dodge and Burn. Help for Dodge and Burn. We need, you can work on Dodge and Burn in color, but it will be a nightmare. Only even if you got a lot of experience, you won't be able to see every single detail that has to be done. It will be really difficult. So that's why always you need help layers. I always work with 2 help layers. Hue saturation, 100% desaturated, and set to color. The reason I set to color, if you set this adjustment layer to color, what it does is brings the luminosity back. Not every color has the same brightness. For example, your brain doesn't see yellow the same way you see blue, because one is brighter than the other. If you don't have this set in color, you won't be able to see it the same way, luminosity wise. That's why we set it to color. And then on top of this, I'm going to add a curve layer. We're going to take it down a little bit, or you can take it up, depends the areas you want to work on. But I like working like this. I don't know if it will be helpful for you. Set somewhere like there, and then imagine, obviously now you can see all the areas, very obvious that we need to start retouching. There is a lot of blotchiness here, there is areas to work here, and the nose, here, and basically everywhere. The lips here, they look very dirty. This area here looks dirty. But imagine we want to work on those areas here that seem to be darker now, and we want to have a bit more, better visibility. So what you could do is this layer, the curves, you can go and set it to a screen. And this is what it does. It brings a lot of brightness to the image, but if you lower the bar here in your curves, your slider, here you can see nice areas now to work on. It's very obvious because everything is really white and really bright. These areas here on the darker areas, they have become more obvious to work on. Imagine we go the opposite challenge. Okay, we go back to normal, and we want to work on those highlight areas here. We want to darken those areas, and we want to make them more obvious. So what we do is we work on the opposite way. We go to multiply, okay, and you can see what it's done is apply a lot of contrast to the image. So if we darken the image even more so, what it does is the areas that they need to be burned, you can see it now very clearly. So you can see now these areas here, they need to be here, there is a patch here, this area here on the nose, down here, all this here. It makes it more obvious the areas to work on. But you can work on normal mode if you fancy, and just put up and down the slider, whatever you feel more comfortable with. Okay. Again, with dodge and burn, you have to be careful and you have to be very patient. It requires a time. You can do this in 20 minutes, regardless if you're the best one in the world. It takes time. So be patient and don't try to run. The more you run and the more harassed you are with this, the worse it's going to be the result. So all the time that you're spending, if you're not doing it properly, it's going to be basically pointless. So take it easy and spend time on it. After a while, and once you practice for so many hours, it will become very easy for you. So we're going to name this help. Okay, we're still in help. I'm going to show you something. I can see quite a lot of people as a help layer using a black and white adjustment. Okay, and then once they're here in a black and white adjustment, if you change the reds or the yellows, yeah, you have access to this. Yeah, it's really obvious the areas that you need to retouch. Well, you don't take in consideration here that by altering the reds or the yellows or any color in here, you're altering the luminosity. So if I'm setting this to to luminosity, this is what it's actually doing. This will be your color image. This is not real anymore. This is not the same as this. So basically, because you have changed the luminosity here, you're going to end up retouching where it's not needed, and you're going to damage the image, and your result with dodge and burning is going to be bad. So if you want my advice, is stay away from black and white layers, always. If you want help layers, the one I gave you as an option, there is more, but the one I gave you as an option is totally fine. Sorry, delete this. Okay. Before we start retouching, which I'm not going to do much now, what we're going to do is to dodge and burning, what we need is to set your brushes. Brush is very, very important. If you get this brush set up in the wrong way, the result of your dodge and burning won't be the same. For me, there's only one way, always the same way. Always flow between 6, 8, 10. That's normally I work, as a standard I work on 8%. Your flow 100%, set to normal mode. Here, hardness 0% in a really small brush. And then we go to your brush settings. And we go to transfer. You have to take transfer on. Okay, you can see the brush how it changes when you click and transfer. It's a completely different brush. The opacity and the flow always in pen pressure. And the smoothing on. Okay, spacing 0% and hardness 0%. Why I'm using transfer? Some people have asked me why I'm using transfer, so I'm going to show you why. I'm going to create, solid layer. Sorry, like say black layer. And here we're going to paint in white at 100%. I want to show you the difference between normal mode or transfer. Okay, this is a normal brush, soft brush, zero hardness, and we're painting 100%. Okay, this is what it is. And a curve. This is one thing. And I'm going to show you the difference when you press transfer. Okay, as you can see, the pen pressure is on, transfer on. I've changed nothing. Opacity is still the same. Look at the difference. See, I'm pressing there and you don't see the dots. You have to press more to see the dots. This is when I'm doing the transitions. You see there? Every time you turn your pen, the transitions, they're softer. Everything is softer. When you press, look, I'm pressing and you don't hardly even see it. If I take the transfer out and if I'm pressing, straight away it appears. So the brush is very soft. Every changes that you do, every stroke is very subtle. That's why I wanted to show you, because it makes a huge difference. Okay. So as I said, go back to here, transfer on, pen pressure on in both, and then your opacity about 8%. And then really small brush, your dodge and burn on, and here we can start. I can see a lot of people working like this. Why? But to be honest, I don't have the answer to this because it doesn't make any sense to me. It's like micro dodge and burning, as I can hear all the time. In my world, I rarely use it. Even in a beauty, you will rarely use it unless there is an area that you want to work. But when I'm talking micro, it could be maybe this way to get rid of those dark lines. But you can always use other techniques like cloning or healing on a darken or lighten mode. I mean, it's like you don't have to use always dodge and burn for that. Because in my opinion, when we get too close, you end up losing the idea, the perception of the image, the shapes, the contours of the face and the human proportions. So we end up with the end result is basically robotic. So I'd rather start with this canvas and work from here with my brush. Tiny brush. Then if you want a bit more of a punch, as I said, go to multiply, you see the problems better. And then here, make sure you paint in white in your mask. And the first thing I do, I don't have any pattern. I don't spend an hour here, an hour here, an hour here. I just jump from place to place where it catches your eye. You will get to a point after a while that you will spend more time in a place. Like for example, imagine if you start the eyes, probably you will do quite a lot in the eyes. But as you can see me, I'm jumping first to things that strike me as very obvious. And then from there, I change to somewhere else. Not because I'm bored, it's just because it's what catches my eyes. But then it will get to a point that you will get stuck in an area. Another thing that I like doing as well, it makes more sense when I'm dodging, is I like to do burning first. Why? Because it softens the transitions and everything becomes a bit more balanced. So I like working first sometimes on the areas that I need to darken. Okay, because it gives me a bit more balance of the image. So you can see, I'm going to close this so you can see it better. I'm not going to do the whole lot because otherwise this video is going to be endless and you're going to fall asleep. I just want to show you a few bits that you can work on. And then I'll do another video hopefully very soon, whenever I've got time because I've got work, but hopefully soon. So yeah, you start working on those areas, always respecting the proportions, the shapes, and I'm just painting away. I'm just tiny strokes on areas that I feel they're more appropriate. So I'm just burning now some areas, so I'm applying shadows, I'm making things darker in some areas to give a bit more definition, okay? But you can swap anytime you want, but to me it just makes a bit more sense to work sometimes on areas to burn first, to make everything it makes more sense to me really. So go back to normal, I'm gonna set this to multiply, bring it back a bit of detail, and again, same again. Whatever catches your eyes, and there you go. Well, we're going to leave it at the moment. We're going to leave it here because I think that's quite enough at the moment. I'll promise I'll do another video soon. I hope you enjoy this. You will see the link of my Facebook page. If you've got any questions, you can always send me an email. I get a lot of requests, so you need to be patient if I don't reply straight away. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.